Hey everyone, Noppy. We finally got our DPS contest winner. Noppy was designed by Inktross. You've seen me pull for her yesterday. I was super lucky to get her off of a ticket, so I'm still very excited. And yeah, as you can see, I also put in the win animation because I got her for free, so I feel like this is a win. And in today's review, we will be, as per usual, as per weekly, check out the unit. So let's get right into it. In her base form, Noppy is a chainer and a physical tank, though I would more push her towards the physical tank role than a chainer because the good stuff of her chaining abilities, especially the passives, Dragon and Beast Killer, and they are all in her Brave Shift, and the Brave Shift, I gotta give it to Gumi. That is one awesome design. This large helmet that is too large for the head of the moogle. It's the cutest thing I've seen in FFBE. I'm loving it, and the animation is just gorgeous. So yeah, in her Brave Shift, Noppy is a chainer, like I just mentioned, and she can also buff a few things, such as Earth Imbue for the party, her strong 50% Earth Amp, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's check out Noppy's abilities. And as you can see, as with most global exclusive units, the active side or the ability side of things is a little bit convoluted. So let's zoom in and check out the most interesting abilities. From my point of view, because I like Mastermind Zone, when I first saw Noppy, I was kind of curious. Moogle Mimic. Here, Noppy actually copies some status effects, such as killers or status buffs, which I think is super cool. Too bad she doesn't have an ability to spread all of this. That'd be so cool, just a straight upgrade to Mastermind Zone. I think we are long overdue for a Mastermind Zone upgrade, either NVAing him or giving us a unit that can do similar things to him. But yeah, Noppy, it's a cool ability from my point of view. I like it. So yeah. Other than that, we got some tanking abilities, such as the Deluded Defender, which is a 65 to 70% cover mitigation. We also got the 40% physical mitigation, which is a little bit low, but considering the brand has 45% physical mitigation on his regular skill, I feel like it's still on the lower end side of things, but it's okay. It's nothing too special. What I don't like is a 250 defense buff for it is for the party, but I feel like Gumi, if they wanted to make Noppy an actual tank, they should have given herself a 300% buff on this ability too. I mean, it is a 5-turn cooldown, so it should be something really good and not this kind of ability. And as for tanking abilities, we've also got Adorable Decoy, which is her 75% general mitigation, which Behemi should take note of, because Behemi does not have a 75% general mitigation, so other than his big cooldown, that is. But yeah, so kind of funny to see Noppy, who's actually supposed to be a damage dealer, having the better tanking abilities than Behemi. Well, here we are. And Moogle Hero Dance, her Grandest ability with 2 uses per battle, is a 50% general mitigation, which is more likely for the party. Fills half of her LB gauge, but the important part is that she increases modifiers of all abilities, of all physical attacks, I should state, except limit burst by 10x. Say, her own abilities are also affected by this, which is pretty sweet. We'll get to that in a second. But just take for an example a unit such as Noctis. Noctis has, if I'm not totally mistaken, 106 jump modifier. If you use Noppy, Noctis suddenly has 116. That is roughly a 9% increase in damage for Noctis, which is huge. That's absolutely crazy. And Noppy, if you're using her in trials, she'll become a staple, because in trials you most likely are chaining for the most part, other than bursting the boss down. But for chaining, Noppy's got your back. She has this ability, which I feel like is one of her USPs, unique selling points. I mean, we do have Sitmap from Ignis, who got his NVA recently. He also has that ability, but that ability is tied, or is infinite, but it's tied to his LB gauge, which is a little bit better because Noppy only has it twice. But still, super cool ability, and as we will see in a few minutes, Noppy deals a lot of damage. Her damage ability, which does not do much in her base form, is Koopa Barrage. It's a 3-staged attack. First one is 5x, second one is 10x, third one is 40x. The 40x can increase to 115 max once you use it 3 times. And yeah, the 10x modifier increase applies to all 3 of those. So we are already looking at 15, 20 and 125x modifier. This will get even better once we take into consideration the Brave Shift side of things. Now on the passive side of things, let's zoom out again because that one isn't that large. We've got a few comical counter, which counters enemy attacks to the enemy. It's nothing too special. One thing I do like to mention, or do want to mention, is her defense passives. She only has 70% defense and 50%, and 50% HP passives. This isn't all that good for tanks. She also does not have any equipment defense passives. So yeah, I feel like from her base form kit, she's more a tank, but the base passives, they don't speak the same language. It is an entirely different unit all of a sudden if you take the passives into consideration. So I don't know, I feel like this was bad design by Gumi, because the original creator, they did a better job at this, to be honest. But that's just my opinion. So Noppy's Limit Burst in base form is a 140x Earth physical attack, and the best thing about this is it provides 3 stacks of Mirage for the team for 3 turns, so it's much like Savior of Souls Lightning's LB. Noppy's Limit Burst, you will probably never use it, the base form that is, because it has 4 hits and it's kind of weird frames that don't really fit into any chain. So yeah, I wouldn't. Noppy's Brave Shift then. More of the same with regards to the abilities. We do have now actually Earth typed attacks of Shattering Fall, for example, which does 120 in peril. But that's not the one you're gonna use. You're gonna use LB, which has a 135 in peril. But here we see Ready to Rock Kupo is one of her better abilities. It is an Earth imbued to the party. It is also a Earth amp at 15x. And it also increases LB damage by 100%, which is kind of cool. I like it. It's a stacked ability. Does a lot of things. And also deals some damage to the boss at starter stray frames. But the kicker here is, or an ability that I want to point out because people quickly forget about this, is a hero never loses Kupo. It does remove all breaks and has a break for the enemy, but what's her name? Noppy dies in the process. This is not an issue for trials, but for Dark Visions, you're gonna tank your score, because that death is certainly gonna getting reflected in your score. You're gonna lose 20,000 points. That's not worth it, and you're probably using a better breaker anyway. So yeah, another thing, let me check, I did not miss anything, good. So yeah, this is the Brave Shift. Now the Brave Shift passives, let's zoom out again. We've got Moogle Warrior, which is a 150 passive physical damage against beasts. So here we are seeing first differences to the base form. And Rise to the Challenge Kupo is her Dragon Killer passive. So yeah, it does not really make much sense to use the base form for DPS because all the good passives are in her Brave Shift. Speaking of good things, her Limit Burst in Brave Shift is a technically weak or physical damage to all enemies, but the kicker here is 135 in peril, 50% Earth amp to self, And the most important part is the modifier to Kupo Barrage. It is 70x. Thus, you will see her at 85 for the first 5 hits. You will see her at 90x for the next 4 hits, and the final hit is 195. So 115 base after 3 consecutive attacks, plus the 10 from the cooldown or the Grandis, it's 125, and plus 70 is 195 for a total of 370 modifier on Kupo Barrage, which is very good. And if you triple cast this is a 1110 modifier attack, which is good. It's really good. And you will see that in the calculations later on. Let's move on to the Trustmaster and Super Trustmaster. Trustmaster, it is upgradable to the Plus version, the Legendary Moogle Hero Plus. So the base material, if you're getting this after the event is over, it will only be 100% equipment attack through single wield. This applies to wearing a shield or wearing no shield, but it is also eligible to use as a true double hand material. It also has 100% fill rate, which is okay, but we don't need that for Noppy at all. And the Plus version adds 50% attack. Now the Plus version is technically pretty decent for other units other than Noppy, because Noppy is not going to use this. 100% equipment through single wield, you don't need this on Noppy to make her work, and you will see that in my build later on. The material itself may be better for some units other than Noppy, who require exactly that 100%, but there are still other options to get there, such as accessories, for example. Or even easier, Guardian of Light Riku, who has 100% too, and it also increases attack by 80%. So yeah, the Super Trustmaster Greatsword, 192 attack, it's a two-handed greatsword at 1 to 1.6x variance. It has physical Dragon and Beast Killer, and it has a buff that automatically casts at the start of the fight, which increases attack by 250, which is a nice boost. So, but yeah, you will wait anyway with bursting with her, so that buff does not really do much. So the Greatsword, it is the highest two-handed attack. The attack is missing there in the notes, but yeah, it's the highest two-handed Greatsword in the game. It has decent killer on them. It's 2 types of killer, so both at 50% is a fair distribution. And the variance is just good and in line pretty much with other two-handed weapons, but the red sword still remains the best one yet. And if you don't know the red sword, that is a Wild Rose Furion's Trustmaster reward. It is 1.3 to 1.7x variance. Nothing tops this ever. And why am I mentioning this? Because we're gonna use this weapon for the build. But first of all, let's check out the vision card. It is sadly only a 100 attack vision card at level 10. The animation is super cute though. And the rest of it, it really reads like Cloud's vision card, with the only difference being that the level 10 passive for FFBE only is 50% through single wield attack. So if you're using a greatsword, it's a good option. And arguably this vision card is better than Cloud's, for the sole reason that if it's a FFBE unit, it is better than Cloud's. Other than that, Cloud's is better. I should have put that on the slide too, maybe. I hope you're listening to this. And using our own STMR in combination will yield 400% through double hand, which is nice, opens up a gearing slot, but you're not gonna have that for best optimal damage. So yeah, I've talked about the damage a lot, so let's get down to business, right? This is what we're looking at. It's the standard. I forgot to include Noctis here. I had this at XX, but Noctis has 74% amplification. Excuse me about that, I'm sorry. But the rest of it, yeah, fairly standard. 22.5k defense burst, 60% passive defense, elemental resistance, etc. So, this is Noppy's gear that I'm using. Noppy is built towards a demon because she's naturally good against dragons, and that would skew the results very much so. So that is why I built her against a dragon, a demon, sorry. And yeah, as you can see, there's 2 time limited items on this. It's the upgrade package and the Gothic amulet. Now, I'd wager that you actually should have one of those. Either the upgrade package, which is the better option here, or the Gothic amulet. And if you have both, you can, or if you have one over the other, you can substitute the other with Tifa's gloves. That is AC Tifa. She also has 50% equipment attack. That is why we have these 2 accessories equipped in this case. Since Noppy only has a 4x chain mod, or chain, we need both Indestructible Light and Chain Comprehension to get that one up to 5.5x. And you need a lot of attack percent, because Noppy only has 110, if I'm not entirely mistaken, passive, because we're not having a greatsword equipped. We're using Wild Rose Firion's Trustmaster, the red sword. And the passives that I had from the item vault, the plus 20 attack, 15 and 10 attack, they are mandatory so that you will always be at or above 400% equipment attack. Now, does this build still work with less than 400? Yes, it absolutely does. The damage you're gonna lose is not significant, it is still a loss, but the results, you will see them in a few seconds, they don't change much. So this is technically the best build for demons. And it really depends on other types of enemies, but most of them should be doable in the same vein as this. Here's the build for Noctis, Arden, Eryx, Last Gen and Zidane. This should look very familiar to you from the Corrail reviews, so I will skip that. And this is the damage comparison. So Noppy is at the bottom on a win team, and as you can see, probably to a surprise to you, Noppy, even on average, deals more damage than Elric brothers in their best case. One of the reasons is obviously through double hand with 1.7x variance and 1.3 variance at the minimum. That is the huge kicker here. So yeah, Noppy as a chainer out damages the LB finishers, Eryx and Last Gen. That makes a strong case for Noppy, and she's only 72% of Arden's damage, which is not a bad thing. We still need to keep in mind that Noctis and Arden got heavily buffed on a global server. They are way ahead of the curve, or were way ahead of the curve before Zidane hit. So yeah, please always take this with an asterisk when talking about Noctis and Arden. They are Dragoons, they are a very special case. They might not be relevant for future Dark Visions anymore. So yeah, and Zidane, well, we shouldn't compare Zidane to anyone at this point because he's so far ahead of everyone else. It's not a really competition. So yeah, how does Noppy fare in the meta? Because she has a lot of ups and downs. Noppy beats Elrix, which is a nice surprise and makes her pretty strong in general, but here's the kicker, and you have to keep that in mind. For future LB chainers such as Tifa, they do not use Stardust Ray frames. Most of them either use Absolute Mirror of Equity or Bolting Strike chains, so that is going to be a huge issue for Noppy to chain with in Dark Visions outside of Mastermind Zone. Now, there might be a case that we are going to use Venera more often because the passive defense buff of the bosses is going to drop down to 10%, thus making Venera very, very strong and her 90% breaks. And this would give Noppy an entry point into Dark Vision because both of them can chain SR, and Venera's limit burst is laughable, so it's better to use Noppy to chain her with. Then another thing I'd like to mention again is the 4x chain mod cap she has. So she needs 2 materia slots guaranteed all of the time to get her damage up by a lot. And yeah, she's got 3 party mirage stacks on her LB, which I find nice, but it's tied on her base LB and you don't want to really use that. If you're using her as a tank, I haven't done the math on effective HP And I'm not a huge fan of EHP, to be honest, because it doesn't really tell the whole story. And yeah, but the numbers I've crunched so far regarding her general raw tanking abilities, they aren't that bad. But she's gonna suffer in very long fights that last 25 or more turns, because her Grounders, which is her second form of physical damage mitigation, has 2 uses. And at one point in the fight, you will not have physical damage mitigation. You will need an outside buffer for that. And without this reduction in damage, Noppy is going to take huge hits. But we don't have any fight as of right now that is longer than 25 turns. So yeah. Another thing I'd really like to point out is that Noppy's turn actions are very, very strict. You always have to use Adorable Decoy, because the buffs, the provoke and the mitigation, a general mitigation, they only last a single turn. So much like Circle of something from Gebranth, you have to cast this every turn or you're gonna have a very, very bad time. And Deluded Defender only lasts 2 turns, so you also have to refresh that. So her turn actions are super strict. You will never be able to defend with Noppy, and that might be an issue in her tanking capabilities. But still, for newcomers, she is a viable tank, and I will showcase her tanking capabilities on Sunday once I get her to EX +1, because I do want the extra stats that EX +1 provides. So should you pull? Actually highly depends. If you're a newcomer, new to the game and looking for a strong chainer and decent physical tank, she's got your back, literally. She's not a total total dud of banner pull, because she does have her uses in trials if you're behind on trials, and she may have potential use in future Dark Visions if Venera actually becomes meta. And me personally, I like her 135 Earth Imperil. It is good, but most of the global exclusive units we are getting get these. Cacteria got it last week too, so we'll see. There's an Earth theme going around with these global exclusive units. So yeah, that's it pretty much for the review. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you all for watching. And yeah, we'll see each other on Sunday again when I do some fun videos with Noppy as a tank and as a DPS. I hope you're looking forward to this. Have a nice Friday evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you're from. And see ya.